Hey folks, happy 2021. For this calendar year, 2021, I have decided to challenge myself culturally and to check out some cuisines that I am not that fluent in. So we are going to kick that off this month with Japan and exploring some basic Japanese cuisine. Focusing on just that very simple Japanese meal. We're gonna have lunch today, but it could be a breakfast meal or a dinner meal. They have a lot of similarities in terms of the content and what the meal offers. It is generally, from what I understand, and trust me, I've read this, I've not been to Japan. As I understand it, Japanese cuisine in a standard meal generally has 5 dishes. You have your rice, which is a staple. It's a short grain rice. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. You have your soup, usually a miso based soup. We're going to make a miso vegetable soup today. You have a protein. Our protein today is going to be a salmon. We're going to do a salad with raw kale and pickled relish and daikon. And then we're going to finish that off with a teriyaki tofu dish. Japanese cuisine is made primarily, the dishes are made primarily with stock versus water, and that stock is called dashi. I believe I am saying that correctly, D-A-S-H-I, and it is made with kelp or kombu. There are 5 different varieties of dashi, I believe. There's the one where you just use the kelp. There's the one where you just use the shiitake mushrooms. There's one where you just use dried bento fish flakes. There's one where you just use dried anchovies. And then there's one where you combine all of them together. So today, what we're gonna make is the one where you combine the kombu, the dried kelp, with the dried shiitake mushrooms. And you use these 2 things in combination with hot water, and it's just like brewing tea. I have a pot of water here. I'm gonna drop this in there. I'm gonna put the mushrooms in. I'm gonna turn that down to low, and I'm gonna let it steep for about 20 minutes. That's gonna be the core base for everything else we do in terms of our soup, our tofu teriyaki, our eggplant, whatever else we can come up with. All right, this is some seaweed. We're gonna hold on to that until we get to actually finishing our miso soup later. All right, our first dish is going to be a teriyaki tofu. I've got a brick of soft tofu here. I wrapped it in some cheesecloth and let that water strain out of it. And now I'm basically gonna toss that in the sink. Because this is soft tofu, I don't really want to mess with it a lot, so I'm literally just going to cut it into 4 pieces this way, and then 1 piece that way, right? There'll be 1 serving of tofu per person, and so this will be 8 servings in total as an appetizer, right? And this tofu, what we're gonna do is we have some potato starch. I have some open here. This is the simplest, easiest, most delicious dish you can imagine. All right, you take some potato starch, which is really easy to find at any Asian market you go to. It's right next to the rice flour. It's marked very clearly. It's incredibly light. If you don't have it, you can feel free to use cornstarch. You can also use some rice flour. So that's potato flour and the tofu. I'm gonna get my pan heated right here. And to my pan, I'm just gonna add in some canola oil. We wanna get that right in our pan. Now, the secret to this dish is that all of the flavor is in the actual sauce. So our sauce is a simple teriyaki sauce or a teriyaki flavored sauce. And I cheated, right? I totally cheated. I took some vegetarian oyster sauce and some ponzu, which is like a citrus flavored soy sauce. I mixed those two together with a little bit of sesame oil and a pinch of sugar. And that's gonna be my sauce for this. Now, the deal with this tofu is that you have to be patient enough to let it cook. You're gonna hear it sizzle. You're gonna wanna turn it. Don't. It's really delicate. This is the softer of all of the varieties. And that's because it's gonna get this amazingly light, airy, crunchy topping from this potato starch. And we want that center to almost melt in your mouth, right? So we don't wanna go with a firm or a medium tofu on this dish. We really wanna stick to that soft one. And we really have to be gentle because it'll break. For that tofu to brown on one side, right, is a great time to talk about veggie pickles, right? I've got some daikon, I've got my mandolin. I only need a few, right? So I'm gonna make some slices. This is just gonna be the garnish for where I'm going. Put that over here. I'm gonna give it a quick julienne. I'm gonna put it in this bowl. I'm gonna toss some salt on it, right? It's gonna seem like it's a lot of salt, but what I really wanna do for this quick pickle is pull the water out of this radish, right? And I can actually make this pickle in the time that it's going to take me. I've got the same thing happening with some cucumbers. Let's recap. We've got our tofu. Our salmon is already through that first prep stage. We're gonna put that back in the pan with some sauce and sear that off. We're gonna top that with some sauce and broil that off. We'll get back to that in a minute. Let's get started on our soup though. I roasted some cauliflower. The end of the farm season, we've got some root vegetables left. We've got a kabocha squash. I thinly sliced that kabocha. I thinly sliced some beets. I've chopped up some Napa cabbage. We're gonna take that piece of tofu that I broke earlier and some of these green onions, and that's gonna be the baseline of our soup. I like to get everything in the bowl first. It's all roasted, it's all already cooked, right? And let that broth be really super hot. And then just present it like that so I have more control over that final presentation. So let's talk about our broth. All we want from here is the liquid. I'm going to pull out the kelp. I'm gonna rest that over here. I'm gonna take these mushrooms and I'm gonna add them to my tofu as garnish, right? I'm gonna let those cool down, right? They're soft now, so we can reuse those. Now let's talk about this broth, right? Miso soup really is the most delicious, the most simplest thing in the world. But it really is the balance of flavor, right? You have to get the right miso. And when I say right miso, miso is like fried chicken. You like what you like, right? There are a whole different varieties of it. You like which ones you like. You've got to try a few of them to figure it out. I have decided that I like this Harari one. I just like the flavor of it. It has a really rich concentration. I don't have to use as much of it. I feel like it lasts longer. It's organic. It makes my wife feel better. So yeah, this is what we're going in. And then today we're going to do a basic red miso with our dashi here. Miso goes in right at the very, very end. And because we're not putting our vegetables in our soup, we're putting our stock over it, I'm going to flavor my stock right in the pot. I'm gonna use my chopsticks here to get that miso all mixed in. You're doing this really so that you don't have lumps. It's kind of like if you're thinking about making gravy or making a roux, you really just want to get that stock blended all in. It's the very last thing you put in. It's not gonna be in there very long. It's not like bouillon where you want it to cook further and then reduce down with miso. That's your final ingredient. We like seaweed. We'll put a little bit of that right on top. A little bit of green onion. All right. All right, that is our miso soup. This broth base right here, we're gonna add in a couple more ingredients. We're gonna add in some more miso. We're gonna make a paste for our salmon and get that underneath the broiler. I'll be right back. Okay, let's get the rest of our meal together. Let's get our salmon under the broiler. So dang aku, or dangagu, I don't know how to say it. It's D-E-N-G-A-K-U. And basically it means under fire. So it's like to broil something. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this tofu miso, we're gonna make this miso paste. I've got red miso and white miso here. Remember our dashi. I'm gonna add this to the rest of our dashi in this pot. All right, to this, I'm going to add some soy sauce. Get all that in there. Some sake and some mirin. Now this is supposed to be a paste, right? So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put this stuff away so I have some room. I'm gonna grab the bowl that I had my miso in. I'm gonna get a little bit more red miso. I'm gonna get this in here. And then I'm gonna save some of this for the finish. So we're gonna get that all mixed up. If your fish has skin on it, you want to make sure that the skin side is up. That's sort of where you really want to get that great caramelization happening. All right. Generally pour it over the salmon here. And I'm going to stick this under a high broiler for about 3 to 5 minutes, or until it's nice and crunchy. Let's come back to, we're gonna keep that sauce simmering, right? So we have a nice glaze to come over it. And now we're gonna come back and finish our tofu. I took some vegetarian oyster sauce and some ponzu, which is basically a citrus dressing and sauce. Has a lot of tang, a lot of lemon. I just like that. I like the two of them together. Works for me. I don't know what works for you. Any sauce that you like that has a little bit of sugar in it so it will caramelize works great on this dish. So let's get back to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil back to the pan, just to coat the bottom. I'm gonna get it back in a pan. I get my garnishes together here. I've got some chives and some green onion. I'm gonna toss these mushrooms in that pan with that as well. And then I'm gonna finish it off with these bonito flakes, which is like shaved fish. I'm gonna do a little bit of pickled cucumber and some pickled carrot. So let's see if we can't make that look amazing. And while I'm waiting, let's get my plate. I took some of these beautiful purple radishes, right? We're gonna come down the center with those. So even if you don't know Japanese cuisine or you've not had Japanese cuisine, this is simple, simple, simple to make. All right, so we've got our shiitake mushrooms on top. We've got a little bit of a quick pickled cucumber. We've got some quick pickled carrots here. We're gonna end it with a little bit of a bonito flake and some green onions. Let's pull that salmon out of the oven and get it plated, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Our salmon's out of the oven. You can see the pieces that had skin are brilliantly charred. They've got this amazing crunchy that miso and soy has just caramelized up there. Just get some on the bottom. On the top and the bottom, we want to accentuate some of that flavor. All right, let's just get our fish plated up. I'm a huge fan of Japanese mayonnaise. I think it just adds that like nice sort of sweetness at the end. I don't do dairy, so having something that just feels creamy and tangy sometimes is nice, particularly on fish. I'm gonna finish that off. Just some more of our miso. Hang with me. Let's get our rice bowled up, and then I'll meet you at the table. All right, it is almost lunchtime, and I think I did a pretty good job on my Japanese-inspired lunch here. We have our salmon dengaku. We have a little bit of an eggplant and daikon salad. We have some pickled daikon. We have our teriyaki tofu. We have some rice. We have our vegetable miso soup, and we have a green salad to share. I'm super excited to continue this little cooking around the globe. Next month, I think we are going to land in the Philippines. Let's see what I can learn about Filipino cooking.